I buried my son on a gray Tuesday morning, the kind of day where the sky feels heavy enough to crush your chest. Ahmed was only 32, too young, far too young. As I stood by his grave, my hands shaking around a handful of soil, I felt like part of me was being lowered into the ground with him. For years after my husband died, Ahmed had been my world. I raised him alone, working long hours, skipping meals so he could go to school in clean clothes and dream bigger than I ever dared to. When he married Sana, I told myself I was lucky. She was educated, confident, modern. I believed my son had chosen well. I didn't know how wrong I was. After the funeral, we returned to the house. My house, or so I thought. I had lived there for over 25 years. Every corner held memories. Ahmed's height marked on the doorframe, his childhood drawings tucked behind old cupboards, his laughter echoing in the walls. Sana didn't cry much that day. She spoke softly to guests, accepted condolences with dry eyes, and kept checking her phone. I told myself people grieve differently. That night when the last guest left and the house fell silent, she finally spoke to me. "You should pack your things," she said, standing in the doorway of the living room. I looked up at her, confused. "What do you mean?" "This house is mine now," she replied, her voice flat. "Ahmed is gone. You don't belong here anymore." I laughed an ugly, broken sound. "Sana, I'm his mother." "And I'm his wife," she snapped. "Legally, everything belongs to me." My heart pounded. Ahmed would never. "You don't know what Ahmed would do," she cut me off. "Please don't make this difficult." The next morning she handed me a small suitcase. She had already packed it, my clothes, my medicine, even my late husband's old prayer cap. I didn't scream, I didn't beg. I was too numb for that. I walked out of the house barefoot, carrying a suitcase that felt heavier than my entire life. For 3 days I stayed with a distant relative. I barely ate. I barely slept. I kept replaying Ahmed's childhood in my mind, his first day of school, the fever I stayed up all night treating, the nights I prayed for his safety. How could my own son leave me like this? On the fourth day, I received a call from Ahmed's lawyer. "The will reading is scheduled for tomorrow," he said. "You are required to attend." Required. The word echoed in my head. When I arrived at the lawyer's office, Sana was already there. She sat confidently, dressed in black silk, her chin raised like a queen waiting for her crown. She didn't even look at me. The lawyer cleared his throat and began reading. Ahmed's voice filled the room through his words, calm, thoughtful, painfully familiar. "I, Ahmed Khan, being of sound mind." Sana smiled slightly. The lawyer continued, "I leave my car to my wife, Sana." Her smile widened. "I leave my investment accounts to my wife." She crossed her arms, satisfied. Then the lawyer paused. "I leave my house, located at 14 Gulshan Street, to my mother, Fatima Khan." The room went silent. Sana's smile froze. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "Additionally, my mother will have full ownership and permanent residence rights. This decision is final." Sana shot up from her chair. "That's not possible, he promised me." The lawyer remained calm. "The will was signed 2 years ago and updated 6 months before his death." I felt dizzy. The lawyer continued reading, his voice steady but heavy. "To my wife, Sana, I leave one final instruction. You are to vacate the house within 30 days. I ask you to respect my mother, who sacrificed everything for me." Sana's face turned white. She laughed nervously. "This is a mistake." The lawyer slid a document across the table. "It's legally binding." Tears finally streamed down my face, not of victory but of grief. My son had known. Somehow he had known. The lawyer read the final lines. "My mother gave me life twice, once when she bore me, and again when she raised me alone. I owe her everything." I covered my mouth, sobbing. Sana stormed out of the office without another word. A week later, I returned to the house, not as a guest, not as a burden, but as its rightful owner. Sana had already packed her things. She didn't apologize. She didn't say goodbye. As she left, she looked at me once, anger burning in her eyes. "You planned this," she said. I shook my head. No, my son did. That night I sat alone in the living room, holding Ahmed's old sweater. The house was quiet, but for the first time since his death, it didn't feel empty. I had lost my son, but he hadn't abandoned me. Even in death, he protected me. And that, more than any house or inheritance, was the greatest gift he ever gave me.